Hello everyone, my name is Manoji Ita. I come from Cameroon. My presentation today is on the role of a global social worker in ensuring global sustainable development. I am attracted to this topic because after going through this course for a whole semester, I came to understand that the world has evolved today. The world has seen a lot of changes today thanks to the role of global social workers, thanks to the functioning of the profession, global social work. And to back up this point, I have put together some examples from around the world, from the readings that we had and from other research that I did to show to us that global social workers have been very active in ensuring that the world evolves for the betterment of everybody. To understand more about this presentation, there are some key terms I will be presenting to us, some key terms I will explain to us. One of the key terms in this presentation is global or international social work. What is international social work? This is when a social worker moves out of her country to another country to carry out some professional activity. And these actors or global social workers, they engage both theory and practice in social services. Who is a global social worker then? A global social worker is someone who therefore is actively engaged in both theory and practice in their own country or in another country. And these practices are in different social issues such as poverty, education, disasters, war, climate change, gender issues. One other key theme I'd like us to understand is sustainable development. What is sustainable development? Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations in meeting their own needs. So you see here that it functions on a basis of giving an equal opportunity for all in meeting their needs. I'd like us to understand that global social work is guided by some models, and I'll present to us some of those models that guide the profession of global social work. One of the models that guide the profession of global social work is the personal social service model. This model targets individuals, it targets families, it targets groups everywhere in basic social services. And these models, it looks at services that are needed to either restore or to enhance the capacity for social functioning. One other model that guides global social work is social welfare model. This model focuses on self-help, on mutual aid, on humanitarianism. This model focuses on the establishment of effective and preferably universal and system of formal social provision. One other model that guides the profession of global social work is social development model. What is this model all about? This model is rooted in community organization and community development practice. Social development model seeks to ensure collective action towards the elimination of all forms of violence and social oppression. And one other model is global transformation model. This model calls for the creation of a new world order. This model calls for the respect for unity of life on earth. This model, it looks at the minimization of violence. This model emphasizes the satisfaction of basic human needs. This model has as focus the primacy of human dignity. This model focuses on the retention of diversity and pluralism. And this model looks at the need for universal participation in the process of attaining worldwide social transformation. So these are some of the models that guide the profession of global social work. I'd like us to understand that the role of global social work is best understood in the goals of the profession. And in the examples that I'll be outlining to us, we will see that the goals of global social work are deeply rooted in the functioning of global social work. So let's look at some of those roles of global social work that has been very, very clear in ensuring global sustainable development. You see, global social workers are active in the elimination of barriers to human development. They are very active in the elimination of such barriers. And we are thinking about barriers such as racism, gender, and poverty. I'll take us to the era of the end of the Second World War. You know, during the end of the Second World War, the world greatly suffered a lot of damages. Europe suffered a lot of damages in the course of the war, and in order to rebuild Europe, this plan was set up, the Marshall Plan. This plan was set up in America to help European countries to rebuild their economy. This plan gave out loans to both ally and enemy countries to help rebuild their economy. And it really helped. You see that after this project was introduced, Europe recovered so well. And we must say thanks to this project because it was an initiative of global social work. Still in line with the elimination of barriers to human development, you know, history will always remember Winnie Mandela, wife of former apartheid activist Nelson Mandela. Winnie Mandela fought so hard during the time that her husband was in jail to ensure the granting of equality to blacks in South Africa who were suffering under white minority rule. She equally fought for the liberation of her husband who was in jail. Winnie Mandela is described as the first black social worker. Her activities during that time has made history. Even today, she's been quoted across Africa in many revolutions. I can take the example of Cameroon, where currently there is a crisis. English separatists keep quoting Nelson Mandela and Winnie Mandela especially for her heartless services, and she never gave up, and they keep inspiring fellow followers not to give up the same way Winnie Mandela never gave up. You see, the role of global social workers can be seen in ensuring the full and possible participation of people everywhere in determining their form of government. I'll take the example of NDI, that is the National Democratic Institute. NDI has been very involved and very active in ensuring that people determine their form of government in a peaceful way. NDI works with partner organizations in developing countries to increase the effectiveness of democratic institutions. NDI, for example, was an observer in the 2017 elections in Liberia. This presidential runoff in Liberia for the first time saw the peaceful transition of power from one democratically elected leader to another. And this has never happened in Liberia since 1944. This was the first time. And we must say it is thanks to the intervention of NDI, because before this time, NDI has been carrying out kind of sensitization meetings, educating electorate and elections bodies in this country, not only in Liberia but other countries. So you see, NDI works with other leaders and observers who were coming in from other countries to take part in these elections. You see, in recent years, efforts have continued to get countries of the world out of poverty. For example, like in 1996, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and other multilateral, bilateral, and commercial creditors, they came together and introduced the Highly Indebted Poor Country Initiative. This initiative has as objective to get poor countries of the world out of poverty. And it should be noted that this initiative was intended to make sure that poor countries of the world should not be overwhelmed by unmanageable or unsustainable debt burden. So this initiative gave out loans and assistance to countries at very low interest rate. According to recent statistics, 36 countries, 30 of them from Africa, have received full amount of debt relief from which they were eligible through the initiative. And these 36 participating countries have been relieved of $99 billion debt. So we must say thanks to this initiative because it has helped many countries of the world. Global social workers are advocates. Global social workers are human rights activists. You see, they activate for equal rights for people all over the world, irrespective of race, irrespective of gender, irrespective of culture. In 2000, for example, I'll take us to America and South America. An American Public Health Association introduced a community education and advocacy activity that ended the harmful U.S. military practices that were being carried out in the municipality of Vieques in Puerto Rico. And this U.S. organization called for the United States president to order an end of military activities in Vieques, the island of Vieques, and to return land to 10,000 inhabitants. And this organization equally called for introduced a program that called for the decontamination of the land and other natural resources that were destroyed during 62 years of bombing. This was a great success in global social work, and it would interest you to know that the advocacy saw an end to U.S. military activities in the island of Vieques in 2003. So we must say thanks to this initiative of an organization. It was a global social work organization because it worked for the interests of a global community. You see, global social workers, they work for the transformation of societies towards more humanistic values based on social justice, the promotion of peace, and the attainment of the fullest possible human development. For example, in 1997, an innovative initiative working for the advancement of positive peace in the Middle East saw the founding of the McGill Middle East program in civil society and peace building. This program, it should be noted, was guided by social work and law, and this program worked interdependently to ensure the conditions that promote relationships among people of diversity, both within and between societies. This initiative recorded the security of society or the securing of social rights, the development of civil society and peace building among Israelis, Jordanians, and Palestinians. We all know the situation in the Middle East, that there is a lot of tension resulting from differences in backgrounds and cultures, but this initiative could resolve a peaceful coming together and resolve among this group of persons, that is Israelis, Jordanians, and Palestinians. And in order to ensure the sustainability of this program, Positive Peace Program, this initiative was incorporated to promote the reduction of inequality and the strengthening of civil society. And it was introduced in the School of Social Work at McGill University in Montreal in Canada. That was in 1997. So we must applaud the actions of global social workers here. Today, the world is feeling the intervention and the impact of the International Red Cross and Red Crescent Society. This is a humanitarian movement that was founded in 1963 in Geneva in Switzerland. And this movement has as objective to protect human life and health, to ensure the respect for all human beings, and to prevent and alleviate human suffering. This initiative was the idea of Henry Dunant and Gustave Moignet. We must thank them for this, because the actions of the International Red Cross and Red Crescent Society are felt all over the world, in almost all countries of the world. Red Cross has been established, and this organization works worldwide in helping people affected by conflict, armed violence, and promoting the laws that protect victims of war. This movement has a network of 80 million people that help those facing disaster, conflict, and health and society problems. The refugee crisis of today is a global concern that has been the focus of global social workers. Global social workers are so much attracted to the refugee crisis because it really affects countries of the world, and the refugees, they move from one country to another. So it is a concern for global social workers. For example, you see the Secretary General of the International Federation of Social Work in 2015 visited Vienna and Munich to see firsthand the condition of refugees in this part of the world. Rory Troel, while lamenting the deplorable conditions of refugees he found there, he applauded the intervention of global social workers and volunteers who came in from Germany and Austria to give a helping hand to the refugees who were really going through some deplorable conditions in these regions of the world. You see, global social work is part of our daily struggles. It is part of our lives. It is part of our everyday living. It is part of the fight we get involved in every day to better the world. Every effort in global social work starts from somewhere. It starts with individuals, it starts with groups, it starts with communities, it starts with nations. So I'll end this presentation by asking us, what are you doing as a global social worker in your own world to impact the lives of people, the lives of groups, the lives of communities, nations, and the world? What are you doing to impact the lives of people, to change communities, to change nations as a global social worker? This is a food for thought. You don't need to answer to me. Just reflect on it, and maybe you have a new dimension of how you want to intervene as a global social worker. Thank you very much.